Good morning, St. Peter's. What will heaven be like? Often I hear people say, I'm not sure about heaven. I'm not sure if I want to actually be there. It'll be very boring, floating on clouds, playing harp music, doing God's stuff. What will heaven be like? The problem is we don't actually have the fullness of what it will be like. We can't really know because we live in a world that is fallen. In a world that God's presence is here in the world, but He's not fully present. We worship things that are not the real thing, that aren't really worthy of worship. It says in Romans that we are people who often worship the created things rather than the Creator. That is to say, I think C.S. Lewis says something like, we're like people who are mucking around with mud pies in the mud and the filth when we could be having the real thing. But it says in chapter 21, Revelation, this is the vision that all of Revelation is heading toward, chapter 21, verse 1, then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the old heavens and the old earth had passed away. What is new? Question is, what is new about the new heavens and the new earth? When we think of heaven, we might think of all sorts of different things. Pleasure, ultimate escape from pain, goodness of everything. But the central key of heaven is that God himself will be present. This is what it says. And he'll be fully present. Listen to chapter 21, verses 1 to 4. A holy city I also saw, the new Jerusalem coming out of heaven, prepared like a bride. Then I heard a loud voice, God's dwelling is with humanity, and he will live with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and will be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Grief, crying, and pain will be no more, because the previous things have passed away. The key element to the new heavens and new earth is that God is fully present with his people, and that at the center of the world will be God, worshipping him in all his glory. And that's why I say it's hard for us to imagine heaven and wanting to be with God and being there with him fully, because he's kind of hidden somewhat. Let me read out from Richard Bauckham, who says this. I thought it was on page 120. It's on page 126. Listen to this. Before chapter 21, Revelation confines the presence of God as the one who sits on the throne in heaven. This doesn't mean he's now not present in the world, but that his presence is paradoxical, in hidden and contradiction. He's present to worshippers in the sanctuary. He's present as the slain lamb. He's present as the Spirit in the faithful witness to Jesus. But while the beast rules the world and humanity in general refuses to give God glory, his evident presence, his glory, which is inseparable from his reign, appears only in heaven. And when his glory fully appears, its effect on earth is a destructive judgment of evil. Then when the new Jerusalem comes down from heaven, God will make his home with humanity on earth. And the Greek words in 21 verse 3 used for dwelling are those which Jewish Greek used as basically it was Greek that was put in from Hebrew about God's presence in the tabernacle and the temple. So what he's saying there, really complicated way though, but what he's really saying is the whole temple, the whole world will be God's temple. And we currently don't live in that, and so it's really hard for us to imagine that. But it will be magnificent, and it will be awestruck with the presence of God. And I suppose I just finish with the immediacy of God's presence will be, we shall not want nor desire. We will know what it is to worship him fully and finally, and there'll be no pain, and every tear will be wiped away. But I suppose I finish with this. If you think heaven's going to be boring, and you don't really want to know God now, and you're not interested in knowing God now, well, I suppose it won't be for you. Heaven is the place where all things pure and good will reign, and where God will finally and fully put to death all that is evil. And we'll learn to love everything in their right order. We'll still have things from heaven and from earth that are good, or from earth I should say that are good, but we'll be able to worship God fully in his immediate presence. That's it for today. Revelation 21 tomorrow.